Hi, and welcome to the Humans of the Northern Beaches We Belong podcast, the show that gives a voice to a diverse range of community members here on the Northern Beaches in Sydney, Australia.
We wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we are recording this podcast and show our respect to the elders past, present, and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in.
This podcast is proudly funded by the New South Wales Government to the New South Wales Social Cohesion Grants for Local Government. All views and opinions expressed by participants in this podcast belong to the participants and do not reflect the views of Northern Beaches Council.
This episode discusses sensitive topics such as racism and violence. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself, and if you need to, reach out for help. You can find more information in the show notes.
We are Juliana and Nancy, and in today's episode, we are going to discuss survival with Juliana about her life story. Be sure to listen to the end for all the details. So our guest today is Juliana. She's a community member who will share her story of survival with us. Hi, Juliana.
Hi, Nancy.
Thank you for joining us and opening up to our listeners. It's a real pleasure to be with you today.
My pleasure.
We'll start with a quick fire questions to get to know you a little bit more. So, Manly or Palm Beach?
Both. One, because Manly's young, energetic, that whole vibe with it, and Palm Beach is more relaxing, chilled out. When you've reached a certain age, you can appreciate life.
Nice. Beach or bush?
Both again, because I was brought you can't see it, viewers, but I'm Jamaican, English Jamaican. So I was brought up in the country in England, a place called Derbyshire. So I was very countrified and out in the bush and picking berries and getting dandelions because we used to have rabbits and stuff like that and go along the canal and cycle everywhere. And then also when I used to go across to my parents' home in Jamaica, the beaches out there are absolutely gorgeous. And then I moved down to Brighton and Hove where it's got pebble beaches, but it's was my home for 17 years, so the beach was part of my life too. So it's a combination of both, basically.
Beautiful. Beeline or ferry?
Well, I have to say it has to be ferry because you don't get the teenagers on the ferry, really. I don't like catching the beeline because of, the youngsters and the kids. And I know they're youthful, but sometimes they should really, actions have consequences. And, this generation, unfortunately, for me, and I'm probably being the old school of me and quite reserved, whatever, it's just that. So I'd rather catch a ferry into the city if possible than the beeline, or else I'm a car girl, so I'll just drive.
Warringamall or local business?
Local businesses, because I'm a local business, you've always got to support your local businesses when it's convenient. But unfortunately, because of the cost of living and the price rises, and you go to a larger store like Warringamall, you're going to get more competition, so the prices are lower. So it depends what you're looking for out there, guys. So it's both, but obviously in a time of need, when you can't afford something, unfortunately, it would have to be, Warringamall. But I would prefer to go local if I could.
Great. Thanks. Coffee or tea?
I'm a tea girl, British born and bred. Sorry. I only take a shot if I have to wait. I don't know when was the last coffee I've had, but no, if I was in desperate need of being, to get that kick in the morning, I'd have to rummage around in my cupboard for coffee. I do have a coffee machine on the side, but no pots to fill it. So, that was just purely for guests. But, tea girl, through and through.
Early bird or night owl?
Both. I worked in bars, restaurants and clubs because hospitality is my trade, so I was used to getting up early for the deliveries of the sellers being dropped off like at 6 a.m. But I'm a night person because of the clubs and restaurants and working late and do all the inventories. And also having children, you do both, right? You don't get any sleep. One child, well, all of them actually, it was every hour on the hour for breastfeeding. So I had very little sleep and I had to basically juggle things around and everything. And because of certain circumstances as well, I tuned my brain to actually be alert at night because being a single mum with young kids on your own, I had to be just that little bit, more aware of my surroundings at night and in the evening, and I'd be able to wake up to certain things.
Wow. Emu or kangaroo?
Now, I'm not an Aussie, so I would, and you guys here eat both of them, so, and I love animals, so I wouldn't touch, I just couldn't eat kangaroo or emu, so I love them both equally, but
One thing you can't live without?
Air. And my children. Yeah. Life is for the not taking, it's what you actually create. Happiness, you can't find happiness. It's what you have to create happiness. So to do that, air, nobody can live without air, and I'm grateful for it that I'm alive. But the best thing is my family, because they're a part of me, part of DNA, and it's part of my history and all the best things that have happened to me in my life. So I'm very blessed, and yeah, I believe everything happens for a reason, but I'm very blessed and I love my girls to death, and they know that. So yeah.
What's your go-to comfort food?
Oh, do you know something? I don't have one. And most women probably say chocolate, right? But that's only used to be the time of the month. I've gone through menopause. It's too late for me now. So, and also I used to say I've eaten too much. But go-to comfort food. Can we do go-to drink? Gin and tonic now. And it used to be Southern Comfort lemonade. But my go-to drink actually would be gin and tonic. My daughter introduced me to it. I swear I got to kill her. He's like, Mum, how many bottles have you got through? Well, it's Christmas. Sorry. But no, go-to food, I don't have a go-to food. I love all food. I love cooking steak, chicken, fish, veggies, dishes. Yeah, but we go-to drink, sorry. Gin and tonic.
Summer or winter?
Black Jamaica, man. Give me the summer. Seriously, the beach. I don't agree with spending money going to a cold country. Why put yourself through that? And also, all the gear you got to buy. My daughter went skiing, and I said, Isabel, how many jackets and trousers can you fit into one suitcase? You got to buy more luggage to put your clothes in. And then also, when you go on holiday, it's the time to relax and everything. You know how strenuous skiing is. You've got to be fit, man. It's like, I haven't climbed probably 20 sets of stairs in, I don't know, 30 years. I couldn't do it. Beach, any day. Sunscreen, pina colada, cocktails, the water, the heat against your skin. You know, the all against... Oh, no, man. Beach. It has to be beach.
Sweet or savoury?
I'm sorry, I'm a Gemini. It's sweet because there was a study done years ago and it was shown on TV, BBC. I can't remember what it's called. I was talking to my daughter about it about 2 years ago. We watched it together, right? My daughter's a nerd, the eldest one, right? She's sour. It's not. She's just like, I'm a sweet, right? And all of them are sour. They eat lemons, raw lemons. It's like, and I'm saying this now, but water is just come to it. I can't do it. And it's all to do with your personality. And I truly believe this. There was a study done in the BBC about the personality traits on whether it's sweet or savoury. And savoury is obviously the lemon side, right? Because they're all savoury. And I'm sweet. It's all to do with your personalities and so. And it's true. So I should really look that up because it's a brilliant documentary and how they broke it all down. Sour or sweet, it was called, right? And I'm a sweet any day.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Favourite coffee shop on the beaches?
Okay, I don't have a favourite coffee shop because I'm not a coffee drinker and I work 5 days a week. I always have done, living on the northern beaches, and I obviously couldn't afford to buy it during the time when I first moved here. And it's not part of my culture because it's a beach culture. I moved to the area because I love the environment and where it is, and it also brought back my memories of growing up as a kid. So to go to a coffee shop is a luxury for me, and to have that time to just go in the morning or I work, that never ever happens for me.
City life or countryside?
Both again, because I was born in the country and I'm a city girl. So when I first arrived here, I'll tell you a quick story, is that where I lived in England is Brighton and Hove. Now, Manly was based on Brighton. So that's where they actually got the idea to do all the designs and everything. And we arrived and I thought, okay, we live 10-minute walk from the city in Brighton. And I thought, okay, I want something close to that area. And the houses, my house was an old Victorian house, Regency House, and I looked around the area and Wallara was the place where I thought, this is similar to where I used to live in England. 3-storey, had a basement, small garden in the front and back, garage, whatever. Anyway, so I looked around and I said to the girls, I'm just going to pop in and see the agent to see how much it would cost. So I walked in and says, oh, hi. So just inquiring, he says, do you have any details on the property. So they turned around and sort of slid the information across with the price on it. Nowadays, they don't have the price, right? The price on it. I looked down, I went, okay, bye, see you. Walked back out again and goes, guys, we can't afford this. And then walked back out. It was crazy. So ideally, I would have loved to live like Double Bay, Rose Bay, Rushcliffe's Bay or Lara, because that was a similar area where I lived in England compared to where I live now. But having said that, Well Beach, which I lived, the area that I bought in, is just as nice. And I ended up with a shack that, yeah, it was a beautiful shack, but it's a shack.
What's your favourite way to relax after a long day?
My bath, but I'm finding it very difficult to get out once I get in. Sorry. It's like, God, I've got to get out of here. No, yeah, my bath, relaxing. If I could afford massages, it would be nice, yeah.
Favourite spot on the northern beaches?
Favourite spot is my home, because you can't beat home. Everything's there, and where I live, it's walking distance to Well Beach, and it's just home. That's why I picked it. I looked at 133 houses before purchasing that property. I put an offer in round the corner, got gazumped, and I got to meet my neighbour, who's like family to me now. And it was fate that this happened. I truly believe in fate. And then I said, right, girls, that's it. We were in the city at Darling Harbour, Circular Quay, having lunch one Sunday, and the estate agent or my lawyer said, we put an offer in, and they said, no, sorry, you've been gazumped. I went, what? And I thought, what do you mean gazumped? Because in England, once they accepted your offer, that was it, finally. So I said, I don't believe this. So we drove back, and I said, I'm going round to look one more time. My middle child said, no, I'm fed up of looking at houses, because the 133 houses, I was dragging around 2 children, right? And I said, I'm sorry, but just one more look, I promise you. And they said, afterwards, we'll have to rent, because we can't find anywhere that we liked. So I said, okay. So we went past, because we were based at Eleanor at the time. We drove past Eleanor, hit the bends, went round, came back round. Instead of taking the left turn, I took the right turn. And then on the corner was the property that came up. And I drove round and I looked at it and I thought, oh, God, I can't afford this. You know, it's on the corner and it looks really big. And I came back round, and then luckily we went through a series of events, which I won't really go into because it's a long story. And then we eventually got the property. So it was a blessing. So I was saying things happen for a reason.
Amazing.
Yeah, which was good.
So how long have you been living on the northern beaches then?
We arrived in 2002, so it's coming into 23 years, which is good.
Wow. And how do you feel you belong on the northern beaches?
Belonging, because I do family daycare, it's all about inclusiveness and making them feel part of your home and the whole holistic approach to everything. For me, because of my culture, Black Jamaican, and being British, it was only acceptable when people spoke to me. They always presumed different things. So take, for instance, to give you an idea, when I first started taking my second child to preschool care, one of the parents would say, oh, are you the nanny? To start a conversation. And then other people say, oh, are you on holiday? You know, they didn't think, they just presumed, right? Then there was other incidents that were quite worse than that. And I just thought, these people are so negative and narrow-minded, right, that they can't look outside the box, right, because that's what they're used to. And the theme that everybody say to me is like, it's insular, peninsula here, Jew. You know, the fact is, you have to be careful. Everybody knows everybody, you know, everybody knows everybody's, you know, stories and stuff, and it extends even further than that in certain groups. And I'm thinking, this is crazy, you know, and they're not lived, you're not go and travelled. I lived in Singapore for 2 years. You know, and I went to Europe, you know, Paris, France, I worked. It's like, do they not understand how things are? It's like they want to own it as their own. And I'm thinking, I feel sorry for the Aboriginals, I really do, because they don't realise that this was their country first, and because of that, and that was more embarrassing because the majority of the people who live on the Northern Beaches are British. And I'm thinking British people would have a better insight because England, it was so multicultural. I grew up there, right? And I'm thinking it's quite sad. So feeling a part of the beaches is a difficult question for me to honestly ask. I feel at home in my home because that's an environment that I created. Outside, because everybody's so narrow-minded, and sorry, some people can be idiots, especially neighbours, which I've had to deal with. It's embarrassing. And sometimes I feel ashamed to think that I'm from the Northern Beaches, and I'd rather be living in the city because it's so multicultural and people are more down to earth. And it's a reality check. Because of the lifestyle we have here, you feel like you're on holiday all the time. So it's a privilege, right? What you're expecting for your kids. But I actually chose Northern Beaches because it was something, and the environment and my home where I brought me so many memories where I was brought up as a child in the country to live in Brighton and then have the blessing of going down, being 10 minutes walk from the city and all of the benefits from it combined into one. So I knew I had to bring them up in a good environment and then expose them on their high school years. So I got them out of the beaches further down to go to a certain school called McKellar Girls, which they all got in for scholarships, which was really good, to educate them because it's a multicultural school and it was all girls, and girls do better in a all-sex school. It's been known, the statistics are there, and boys do better in co-ed. So that's why. So, yeah.
Would you like to share with us your story of survival?
Well, my story of survival begins 2 years after being here when my ex decided it wasn't for him. So my youngest was 2, my middle child was 3.5 because they're born in the same month but 2 years later, and my eldest was like 9 at the time, coming on 9.5. So I came over to Australia 2002, 3 children and a husband at the time, no family, okay? So we knew his family and they were based in Elanora, and then we bought along the beaches further up at Well Beach. And to have a person who you were with for 25 years, because we met when I was 16 and a half, went out for 5 years, got engaged when I was 21, coming on 22, got married when I was 26. So in total, I knew him 10 years before I actually married him. So our families were entwined. And I found out that his mum knew my mum because my mum was studied to be a doctor at the City Hospital, Derby City Hospital, and his mum was a nurse, midwifery, whatever. And they knew of each other. I had no idea. And his elder sister knew my older brother because her best friend was going out with my big brother. And it was just crazy. Anyway, we got on, our families were all intertwined, really tight, brilliant engagement party, brilliant wedding. Everybody came up, because I had it back in my hometown in Derbyshire. Everybody came up from Brighton home. We stayed, it was a long weekend, the best weather that I had for the whole year. It was perfect. We went to Barbados for a honeymoon, back to see, friends and relatives and stuff like that around the Caribbean. It was basically a dream come true, childhood sweetheart, that very rarely happens. Then we travelled, so we lived in Singapore for a couple of years in 1993 when my eldest was born, and we lived there for 2 years, and we decided that we wanted other children. And if you have a male in Singapore, obviously he'd be Singaporean, but you have to do service for 2 years. You have to go back every couple of years to do service, so that would be a bit restricting, and we knew we'd always want to go back either back to England or elsewhere to live. So we said, okay, you want more children, let's go back to England. So then I had the other 2 in England, Brighton Hove, and we decided, well, actually it was the ex decided that he wanted to move in, needed more space, because where I lived in Brighton, there was a heavy influx of people. I didn't know where, Norman Cook, Fatboy Slim, the DJ, who was married to Zoe Ball at the time, and she'd be on BBC Radio advertising the fact, yes, come down to Brighton, it's the best time of your life, blah, blah, blah. So everybody had this greater influx in Brighton. So then more people started coming in, and then more people started coming in and staying and, sleeping on the beach, whatever. And we just knew we needed more space. So we eventually ended up in Australia out of Jamaica, Canada and Spain. So we emigrated, but we said we're going to do it the right way. So we got permanent residency first, and then we decided to come over. And I thought it was just going to be hot. I didn't even check out the seasons or anything, because we lived in Singapore, and I thought, okay, it's close to Singapore, then it's going to be, hot, blah, blah, blah. And I gave up all my jumpers away, my boots. Anyway, got to Australia, realised they do have seasons. And we just had to find a home, and then I told you about the story about looking for the home, and we found it. And then I decided, because of my ex leaving, I had to change my whole career around. I had to re-study, because I was a manager and director where I used to go in and set up bars, restaurants and clubs. And I was also, I can't remember the word, actually, it's like I had to go into trouble bars, restaurants and clubs, so that I would wean out all of just basically changed the whole thing around and revamped it and painted it and got new staff in and everything. So that would be my job. So I'd actually go in and reset it and just basically hit the profit margins and change it around and get a new clientele in and change that that whole premise, whether it's a bar or restaurant or club together, just change that and get new influence. So just get a new whole marketing ploy around it, which that's what I would do. So living on the beaches, I had to decide I couldn't really do that, but I did that part-time and had met two really lovely people, Chris and Vicky, who used to run Avalon Golf Club. And I knew a friend who was a chef, and they'd asked him to come in as the chef because they turned around the golf club and made a restaurant called Link's Restaurant in the Avalon Golf Club. They said, Ju, we don't get experience and everything because I used to work for the Avocado Group. Would you like to come in and do front of house, which is me, right? And I love it finding the staff, training them all up, getting the uniform sorted out, doing the whole thing, fine dining. Yeah, brilliant. So it took us 2 years of me waiting to get that position. I was doing stuff on the sideline, but also doing other jobs. I think 4 at one time, because I was a single mum because the ex had left by then. And then, so I set it all up and then went in and we did Link's Restaurants for, I think it was like a couple of years. My experience with people who were good to me and helped me at the time and going on my journey, and those people were with me when I went through that journey, which was amazing. And they got to know my girls, and the girls had run across from Avalon Public School up to the golf course, and Vicky and Chris would spoil them. Yeah, take whatever you want out of the fridge, have a drink, chocolate. I went, what? Excuse me? So yeah, they had the best time. It was really, really good. So from moving on from that, then I had to... So basically, the whole thing is to survive. This is all about surviving. I had no partner, doing everything on my own. I actually divorced him because I thought, hell no, you ain't going to get away with that, blah, blah, I'm going to divorce you. So he decided we're not going to have the whole of our, basically, assets done. He wanted to do it at the same time. So if we're going to divorce, I'm not going to finalise our agreement until I'm divorced. So I said, that's fine, we'll just do it all on the same day. So it's all about control, basically, for him. And he just wanted to sell the house. No, there's no way. I've worked too hard for this and not going to have my children not have a roof over their heads. I put my plan in place and it all worked out. Did all the processes, the mortgages, the girls, what I'd need to survive, how much jewellery I had in gold, whatever. Sold the lot, asked my mum and dad for backup. This is what I need to do. I called my mum and my mum goes, I can't do it in a Jamaican voice because that'd be so funny. Julie, she said, send me the details over. I said, Mum, it says, by the time I write everything down and post it, it's going to take 5 days to get there to you. Then for you to 5 days to get back. I said, no, I want to see it. I need to read it. Because she was a business lady, Capricorn, so got strict, really good heads. So they came up. So I wrote it down for my mum and dad. What I wanted to do, outcomes, everything. Sent it by post. Took 5 days to get to Jamaica, and then she gets it. Called her, yeah, Mum, got it. It's okay, that's fine, blah, blah, blah. Yep, no, fine, no problem. We'll send you whatever, blah, blah, blah. Thank you, Mum. And that was to do my bifolds in my home. So everything has a story as well in the house. So that was the main thing. My mum and dad, that was my bifold doors. And part of I did cut into the part of the grass, made amphitheatre seats, because when I opened up the bifolds, you can see the back wall, it was a white drop to have the cinema for the girls. So there were all little things in the house was to do with certain bits that I wanted to achieve. And then the main thing was the survival was the girls. It was to keep them positive, right? Because I believe out of every negative thing that happens in life, there's always a good thing. You just have to search for it. So I got the positives out of everything and made it a fun thing for them to do. Even when we had to go to the court case, and it was quite often we had to go into the city. So instead of waking up in the morning and saying, look, we've got to go to the city, quick, got to get changed, being in traffic and all that rush, I'd go the night before, book a really nice hotel, get somewhere with pool, and it was Radisson Blue, which was our favourite, and they got to know us. So I said, hey guys, we'd call, oh yeah, we'll book you, come up Met scene level number 5. I went, yep, no problem. So that's the Met scene level, we got the pool and the swim and the spa and everything. So I said, hey guys, yep, pack your stuff, we're going. So I'd drive in the evening before. So we'd have a really nice evening. The girls could swim, whatever. So I made it into a fun activity, not a negative, saying, come on, we've got to go, get yourself traffic, you've got to do this, that. Because they had to go, sadly had to go through all the court case, but they had their own counsellor. Because they were so young, they had to find out what was said was true, basically, in our relationship. And it was very difficult for them because it was just odd. You know, I never thought I was going to get divorced or be single mum. When I arrived here and I went to Avalon Public School, the girls would come back and say, Mum, you would not believe how many divorcee parents there are on the beaches. I went, what? It says, they're all divorced. And my parents, right, were married for life, right? I'm thinking, no, don't be crazy. And I ended up being one of them because life brings in certain temptations, right? And people think the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And it is so sad to see. And my ex fell for that, That's embarrassing, right? So basically, to me, he was just weak. He wasn't strong enough. And unfortunately, it's his loss, because my girls, I look back, they've benefited from so much more, and they are so strong. I'm so proud of all three of them, and they've achieved so much as well. And they're strong, intelligent women with beautiful souls, beautiful minds, and they're gorgeous. They're just amazing. They look all European, thank God, and they just look, fabulous. And I'm so proud of every single one of them. And if you're listening here now, I may have a tear coming in my eyes, but I do. My life would not be the same without my three girls. And I do not regret a single thing. So during the time of living on the beaches, I had to take 2 neighbours to court for verbal abuse and threatening behaviour. I won. There was a certain family that no longer lived there anymore, and there's another family as well, which was rude. I've had 2 incidents with my recent neighbour as well, but because I've lived there for so long, I've seen this wave of different cultures of couples coming in, and I'm sorry, they're just, how can I explain this word for uneducated people? And they look at me as if to say I have no right. One neighbour turned around and said to me, "Oh, I'll have to speak to the owner first." I went, "Sorry?" I said, "Yeah, I own that. That's my property. I own it." One other, it's seriously, I don't want to get into it because I'm starting to get really annoyed now and get slightly angry. And it brings me back to being, as a kid, going through racism at school. I come from a family of 10, and I'd wake up some mornings and my dad, and this is no word of a lie, and I'm saying it on air now, our house was black and white. It was a Tudor-style house in England, and my parents worked very hard. There was 10 of us in our family, and we all had duties and chores to do, so that house was spotless. And people on where I live, which was Wordsworth Avenue, which is after a famous poet, you should look him up, it's sort of beautiful poetry. It was called Wordsworth Avenue. It's a slightly larger road width. It was very, very, still today, this day, I don't know how my parents did it, but they did it, right? It's a really nice house, and they had it on the garage, and people would be, it's like envy or just resentment, thinking, "Oh, how did they do it?" These whatever people from Jamaica, I'm not saying the N-word because that used to be used all the time, and how did they do it? I felt like I was living my life again as a kid when I moved to the North Beaches. It was horrible. The pain, and I know what my parents had to sacrifice. I just said to them, "I am living your life, Mum and Dad. But I chose to live here. Nobody's not going to dictate to me where I live. And I want my girls to have that experience." I'm getting really upset. I cannot, if you think of digging the pain that you've lived your life for as a kid, to experience it again, it's awful. I turned that anger and that feeling of sickness and that bottom belly, when you literally feel yourself vomiting and you've got nothing else to give except the bile, the lining of your stomach. It is awful. I swore I would not feel like that again, or my kids to go through that again. So that gave me my past experience of the racism, what my parents went through, was a situation, 2 incidents I'm going to tell you out of quite a few that had happened. One, what really, I will never forget this, changed my mind about people, was when I was a kid. I was about 6, 7, and my mum said, "Go." My older brother was Roger, "Can you go next door?" She was cooking. "I haven't got enough cost sugar for such. She go and get some cost sugar." Yeah, Mum. Gave him the money. Went outside. "Oh, Mum, can I go with him as a kid, 6? Because I wanted to get a lolly or something." I said, yeah. She said, "You can go." But Roger had already left and gone out the front gate. So I ran out the front door to get to the gate, because I had quite a big garden. Ran out to get out to the front door. And as I turned to say Roger, I saw him standing there talking to this old guy, and the guy goes, "Get him." The dog, he had this Alsatian dog, goes, "Get him." The dog jumped. Hold on. The dog. Sorry. Weekend. No. The dog jumped on my brother, bit into his left side of his stomach, and ripped out a massive chunk of his flesh. The guy, I just screamed, ran back to my mum. Thank God she was a nurse. Told her. She goes, what, Julia, what? I said, come quick, mum. She comes out, she just literally called the nurse. She goes, Lord God, whatever. She says, go and get some cloth. She literally grabbed Roger, picked him up, took him on the floor and just patted his, and just packed his stomach with this cloth. And they said, call Dad. They said, get George, and get Dad to come home. They called the police. Police came round. The police said, there's nothing we can do about it. My dad said, no, that's a lie. He goes, sorry, we can't do anything about it. He goes, that dog should be put down, and I want that person to go around to his house now and do something about it. To this day, the guy got a talking to from the police officer. The dog was never put down. Roger had to suffer. The packing had to be done daily to take out so it wouldn't cause infection to heal. And I swear to God, the whole point says, no, I'm not. I will stand up for my rights. I will never let anybody touch my kids, because if they do, they're dead. Sorry, but anybody. So when my neighbour threatened me and my girls, I just kicked into mode, took him to court, won my case, got an apology. Well, my other neighbour did the same. No, stood up, took a threat, took to court. Yeah, they backed off. When anybody confronts me or says anything, no, because, and I'm an ex-goddamn police officer. I pledged my allegiance to Queen Elizabeth. I was an ex-cadet, an ex-police officer, and I joined the police force to stop racism, because what I experienced at school and what I'd seen and everything and gone through, and even to the fact, relating back when I was growing up, on a weekly, maybe monthly basis, we would have black dog poo smeared on our white wall, saying black pigs go home, right? That's what my parents had to deal with. And they sheltered us from that, and they actually toughened us up, saying there are two things, and I remember this so vividly, there are two things different that makes us different in this world as people. It's the colour of your skin and how much money you've got. That is it. It's what you choose to do with it that makes you who you are. And that's from my dad, and I'll never forget that. Like, a negative situation, something positive comes from it. So always look for the positives. And that's the same thing I've told my girls. And do not put up with anything that you don't believe in or be forced to do anything, because I believe in karma. It will come back and you do the right thing, and you treat people how you would want to be treated. So for living on the beaches, it was a fight. All my life, it was a fight. I have 5 good girlfriends. Even to this day, they say, Ju, we don't know how you did it. We don't know how you got through it. You know, see me, I've had to, run my own business and my girls and look after them. I was strict with my girls. They weren't allowed to have boyfriends until they were 18, because I didn't want to have that. We girls are emotional. I wanted to get them through the HSC and find out what they want to do. One's an engineer, one's doing humanitarian, works for charities and, as a model. The other one's, they all could be models, but they've done really good things. One's a fashion designer, just the youngest one's a singer, she was on The Voice. They've all achieved really good things, yeah? To have an engineer, technical engineer, for your firstborn, and then humanitarian rights, for studying, wants to save the world and give. She went back to Jamaica, paid for this whole school to be painted up, and she did all the charity work on her own. Nobody told her to do it. She saved her money and spent her own money, went back to Jamaica in Kingston, the school, and gave all this stuff to the school and her time, and redesigned it and everything. Then I have my youngest one who's giving through her voice and wants to give back through that because she loves her music. She's a fashion designer. They're all givers. They're not, one of my girls have taken us out of this world. They've all given to society and the community that they live. And my job as being an educator for family daycare for like 18 years, I've given back. I've had over 300 children through my homes, right? I work 5 days a week. Just because you don't see me, I'm not. It's not just because I'm there. So I've had to survive. And that's why I said survival. I've had no choice but to, because everything was against me. And everybody always presumes certain things when you don't presume. If you don't know, just ask at the end of the day. And I could go on I could tell you so many other stories, but that's the main gist of it. And I did that on my own with my 3 girls, with the support of my mum and dad and my family, that got me through the main bit from when their father left. And at the end of the day, the girls have benefited from that, because it was me and my influence only that changed and moulded them with my values and my beliefs that made them respectable, decent human beings that will treat anybody the same as them and not presume that just because they live on the beaches, they have money, they, can afford this and wealth, whatever. No, not everybody's the same. And that's what people need to know, because people just presume, and that's the wrong thing. That just annoys me.
We don't all live the same, do we?
No.
Thank you so much, Juliana.
No, my pleasure. Sorry I got emotional, but that's actually just keeps me going. The inspiration to, when you say something, you process it again. And my life has been so good, and I respect and I appreciate my neighbours, my good neighbours that I've gotten to know, Heather, Anna and Martin, as well as Fred, because he passed away. Alan passed away, he used to be a volunteer at the zoo. Tina and Kieran are family to me. They helped me when I was studying, and my support, backup and everything. And Tina and Kieran, some parts I could not have done or been here without those people in my lives. And I had to say thank you, and especially to my girls, because everybody needs a purpose in life. If you don't have a purpose, you're a wanderer. You don't know what you're going to do. So having that purpose for me in my life kept me going, and it was so, I appreciated it so much because it gave me the strength. And I look back now, and the things that I've had to sacrifice and had to go without, it was the best thing. I have no regrets at all. So that's my story of surviving on the northern beaches. And people, just don't look at somebody and think, oh, they're this or that, because you don't know their story.
Thank you for that, Juliana.
It's okay. Thank you
so much.
Everyone has a story to share. The next time you see someone you don't know in your neighborhood, be curious, say hello, and you may be surprised to hear the story they have to tell. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. Leave a review, listen to another episode, or contact us to share your story.